Shalom, welcome to the Jewish View. My name is Rabbi Nachman Simon with the Chabad House of Delmer, together with my co-host Mark Ronich of Statewide News Service and jbiztechvalley.com.
Well, Rabbi Simon, we have one of the fastest rising stars in the state Senate with us, Senator Marty Golden, a former New York City police officer and one of the only Republicans from New York City. And welcome to the Jewish View. Welcome back to the Jewish View, I should say.
Mark, thank you very much. Rabbi, thank you very much for having me on your show today, and I really appreciate it.
Well,
thank you.
You have a lot of committees that you sit on, but you're chair of the Civil Service and Pensions Committee?
Correct, and the Science and Technology.
Select Committee on Science, Technology, Incubation, and Entrepreneurship.
Correct. That's a very important committee because it's probably the committee that is actually going to create a tremendous number of jobs here in the city and state of New York, in that we work with biotech, biomed. We're trying to bring right now about $30 million into holding and going out of state to bring in researchers that bring in their research teams that discover the next medicine or next gene that's going to be able to give us the ability to prolong life.
You know, in Albany here, the nanotech is super big. It's holding up
Correct.
the whole city. Is there, I mean, I don't know, like you're saying, is more in the city? I mean, again, I know what Albany is doing.
No, I'm part of nanotech. I do nano. I'm up in Syracuse. I'm up the 16 hospitals across the state from Brooklyn to Buffalo. We work with those hospitals and bringing in those research teams and working with the Albany Nano here and making sure that they have the resources and the ability to attract researchers, hold them, keep them, and to move their sciences forward. The big thing here is going to be moving the sciences forward in this great state, whether it's in digital gaming is something that we're very involved in and trying to bring that digital gaming here from California. $2.3 billion business in California. It's a $269 million business here, 55,000 employees in California, 5,000 employees here in the state of New York. It's only one place for us to go, and that's up if we do it correctly, like we did the film tax credit, where we created a tremendous number of jobs and have a return on investment that's $8-9 billion from an industry that was only $4 or $5 billion back in 2004. So we've grown those industries.
What is digital gaming? What is
digital gaming is the games we play on our computers.
And they make those things.
They go and you have teams that create those different games, and to do that you need development. You need somebody to be able to code. You need a team that's going to be able to do design and all that cars and the noise and the studios you need to be able to create
That's a
that.
multi-billion-dollar business.
It is indeed.
Sure.
It is indeed. Today,
every movie has a video game attached to it.
Really?
plus they have the toys. You got to remember that each one of these have their own little game people, right? So they create the game toy, and that becomes a tremendous selling item as well across the world. We have Grand Theft Auto, which is probably not the greatest one to point out on your show here, but it is a video that was created here, a game that was created in the state of New York. It created in economic activity $1 billion in 3 business days. And in the same week, and it's out of Westchester, this company, moved 200 jobs to Las Vegas. I said, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And it moved them because we weren't competitive. Now, I put a tax credit forward. I believe it's in the Excelsior stage, in the monies to be able to access an Excelsior grant. So we'll be able to bring that to fruition and be competitive.
You know, I just, when you're talking about these games, these video games, I remember hearing several years ago about violent video games and how to get a handle on that. And, you know, I guess that just would, you know, society that likes violent video games. And I tell you, I wrote a story about it. I never online, and I never had so many hits and so many other people from the violent video game blogs that are all over the world looking at my story because of the key words that popped up.
Well, I pointed out Grand Theft Auto, which is a violent video,
Yeah.
but you got to remember there's a tremendous number of education videos. So this field is opened, and we can create the energy here in the state of New York and create those jobs. So we keep our kids that are graduating from our colleges, keep them here so that they can grow into these jobs. And these jobs are not, these are $80,000, $90,000 jobs. These are jobs where kids can afford to buy a home, raise a family, and stay and live in this great state. And it's not cheap, obviously, to live in this great city and state. The taxes are astronomical, which we're in the process of bringing down, and we've done that over the last 3 years.
This is your 13th year in the state
Yes,
Senate?
it is.
So this is your bar mitzvah year.
Yes.
We'll give you a bar mitzvah
Yes.
over here. On the Jewish View, we'll give a bar mitzvah party. No bagels and lox, Marty?
No, not yet, not yet. I leave that for Simcha Felder to deal with him.
Simca's been very good with the education tax credit, and I want to thank Simca and having him in our conference, a Democrat sitting in our Republican conference and giving us the opportunity to have a good majority here so that we can pass good legislation that's good for not just the Jewish community, but for all our communities across this great state. And the education tax credit would give the parochial schools, yeshivas, the ability to have a tax credit, to be able to send, and you can take a look how much it costs, $10,000, $12,000, $15,000 to send a child to school. Today, it costs us $20,000 to send a child to school in a public school setting.
Really?
Think about
That's how
that.
much it is?
What you could do with that in yeshivas or in our parochial, our Catholics, our Christian schools, what we could do, if they had $20,000 a kid, I think you'd have a different outcome. You have it in the yeshiva, you have it in the Christian schools, you have them not only staying in school, showing up every day for school, but they're not only passing, they're going to college and they're completing college at 98%. You don't have that in our
else.
public school system.
Well, I have to tell you the little secret weapon, that I've been hearing about the past couple of days. If this education investment tax credit does not come through, well, we know it's not coming through on the budget, but doesn't come through at the end of the year.
I would not count it being done over the next several days.
Okay.
It can happen. There are still, I'm one of those guys that I'm a believer and optimist, and I believe there are issues that the Hastie's, the new speaker, is looking at that would help us get that tax credit done in this budget. He came to the Jewish community. I was there in Borough Park.
Yes.
I watched him. As he said, I have a 5-year-old son. I believe in the education tax credit. He was on the bill when he was a member of the assembly, and now he's the speaker, so he took his name off all of the bills, but he actually had his name on the education tax credit. And if you think about it, Shelley Silver himself put forward only today a tax credit of $500 per child across the state of New York that goes to parochial and private schools. So Shelley seen the value in putting a tax credit forward. I don't believe it's enough. I believe it should have been done years ago. I believe our tax credit deals with the high expenses of the kids that go to yeshiva and to Christian schools where the Christian schools are a little bit less. They're about $6,000. Yeshiva's a little bit more, $8,000, $10,000, $15,000. I think you can cut into that and help those middle class people where they need the help, as well as the poor and the others that need the opportunities.
We can be optimistic, but we have to be realistic, and one way or the other, it's going to either happen or not happen. So if it doesn't happen, then these 100,000 students are going to be enrolled in the public schools, which they have their right to be, and then there's going to be sort of a panic.
Well, there's almost 500,000 kids today in private and parochial schools. So if we're closing these, the Christian schools are closing at an astronomical number. So if they continue to close and they move the kids into the public school system, there's no room in a public school system.
That's right.
So what you have to build
what are
new
you gonna
schools.
do?
You have to build new schools to the tune
gonna
of billions
cause
of dollars.
havoc.
And you got to remember what you're paying. Now you're paying for the new furniture, new teachers. You got to have all
The
of that.
infrastructure,
The infrastructure.
everything, yeah.
So you're talking about the tune of billions of dollars. I put 10,000 classrooms into a school district in Brooklyn, District 20. I put in 10,000 classroom seats in the last 10 years. And you know what? They told me I'd be all right with overcrowding. And guess what? I am the most overcrowded school district in the city of New York 10 years later with 10,000 new classroom seats. Think about what I'm telling you. And I have a graying community. I have a community that's an older community. So you can imagine that to get new families, younger families moving in, that they are New York City and New York State coming in, the land of the immigrants. My parents came from Ireland many years ago, and they had 8 children in 10 years. Mom and Dad were quite busy. 4 boys in one room, 4 girls in the other room. But they gave us a great education. They gave us I'm Catholic, Roman Catholic. I got a Catholic education. And our kids, my brothers and sisters, my siblings, they had great opportunities that were presented to them. So many people come from all over the world to come and to live in this great city. And we want to make sure we're doing it correctly.
Well, there's a nuclear option at the end if something doesn't get done. And I'm just here to tell you, in case you hadn't heard this. But
no.
I've been following the Orthodox Union around, and I've been following Agudas Israel around, and I've been following the Catholic Conference around, and I'm hearing all these stories from the legislators, and and from the council and staff who meet with these groups, and I'm sitting in on those meetings, and I'm telling you, they are.
Well, Rabbi, today, I understand, I'm not going to go into names, but he mentioned some of the groups that went in and met with some of the assembly members and said, listen, we're going to run against you. We're going to put people up against you and you and you. And they even named the people who are going to put up. The faces on some of the legislators were
I know.
They finally understand that it's no longer a game, that the people are quite serious. When you say there's a nuclear option, there is a nuclear option. And the object of the game is people are waking up across the state of New York from Brooklyn to Buffalo, and they are going to go out there and they're going to put people into office that,
favor the
reflect their
education.
views.
Yeah,
That's
right.
correct. And so we're going to see more and more of that. But I think that Hastings, I think, as a speaker, is a sharp tool from New York City, and I think he will understand the necessity of getting this done without having to go nuclear. And I think there are other options that are out there that if it doesn't get done in the budget, that it can get done. And I only had the conversation with the governor yesterday. If this is not in the budget, he says we're going to get it done. So I have to take the man at his word. He's told many rabbis, and he's told the cardinal and the bishops that he's going to get it done. So I think he has an awful lot of work to do in a short period of time.
Well, he came to, the governor before Election Day came to the Borough Park, and Dov Hikind and Simcha Felder, I don't know if you were there, but they hosted him. And he said the governor came to Borough, and Simcha Felder was telling us the story. The Governor Cuomo came to Borough Park last year before the election and said it was a matter of justice for education tax credit to be passed. And he said that it now becomes a matter of justice with strings attached. That's not a matter of justice, that's a matter of justice with strings attached. And that's the way Simcha Felder put it.
Well, he's
because
absolutely
he
right.
tied it with the DREAM Act. And the governor tied this EITC with the DREAM Act.
And they shouldn't have done that. We'll do it. There's a DREAM Fund out there. We can discuss a DREAM Fund.
Right.
There's a whole host of things we can discuss, but the DREAM Act is something we can't afford to put our own children in our communities. I have a 23-year-old and a 16-year-old. I want to put my kids into college. I'm not getting any breaks for that. So why would we want to give an undocumented immigrant an opportunity that somebody that lives here, is born here, grew up here, doesn't have the same opportunities? It's just not right. So the DREAM Act should not be in here. A DREAM Fund, they want to do something similar to what we're doing with the investment tax credit. I have no problem with that. Let people, take a deduction, let them put the money in, there's no state dollars there, and this to me works. So there are options, and we were at the last week Amir Shajid, the Consulate General from Israel, and he went on about the education tax credit in the state of New York, and he understands how important it is for the yeshivas and for the schools and for the future of education. And we had a conversation that, and he's hoping, and having the conversations with the senators, and that this would take and would happen.
Now, your district has a lot of neighborhoods in Brooklyn that have a lot of these parochial schools, yeshivas, Catholic schools, and so this really impacts your district quite a bit.
Oh, big time. I have, I couldn't tell you, I have 60 schools that are public. I have another 35 that are parochials. I mean, and that's not including the yeshivas.
Right.
So you got to, if you take a look at all the schools, I have over 100 schools that that represented in my
Because
community.
part of your district is Ocean Parkway.
Correct. I got the,
You have a
like I
district
said, I have
office on
Sephardic,
Clinton
I
Road.
see them, I have the Russians, I have, you name it, I have a large Irish, Italian, Asian, I have one of the largest Muslim communities as well that are in the community, and the Greek schools, and the many, many different Christian schools. So there's a lot that I have. I had the mosaic. I have everything that's possible living within my district in the southeast and southwest parts of Brooklyn, from Bay Ridge to Marine Park.
That's phenomenal. And, you know, I grew up right near where your district ends, the eastern part of your district ends.
Yes.
And I grew up the next neighborhood over, so I would have liked to have had you as my senator.
Well,
but, you know, some other time we'll see what we can do with that.
Now you have them on the Jewish View.
That's right. I wanted to ask you about cyber terrorism, because that was a big effort on your part, and if you could talk about that a little bit.
We have bills in there that hopefully will get passed. Cyber terrorism is an issue that goes on a regular basis around the world. We need to protect the state of New York, and specifically the city of New York.
What is it really? It is to destroying computers?
Yes, they go into networks, and they're able to take those networks and take control of those networks. And once they take the control of the network, they can go after all the credit card numbers of different institutions, and they can go in there and take those credit card numbers and start to use those numbers and take those dollars out of those banks and flow that money back into terrorist activities. You see a whole host of things going on where they can shut down our grid, our electric grid, our water system. The cyber terrorism it can shut down buildings and shut down parts of a city. That would impact our MTA system, our transportation system. So we have to make sure, A, that we have legislation in place that stops and actually puts people in jail for long periods of time if they in fact go in with any type of cyber terrorism. So we're hoping that this will get passed and will become law here in the state of New York. We've worked with the district attorneys, District Attorney of Manhattan, Cy Vance, and Mr. Thompson in Brooklyn, and others across the state to design and to make sure that this is correct, and working with the police departments in the city of New York and other police departments to make sure that it's designed to a degree that gives them the tools, the teeth that they need to be able to put these people where they belong, and to send a message. To send a message out there, we're prepared. We're ready for you. You want to come here, we're going to get you. And it's very, very difficult. It's a technology today is changes in a moment's notice, and they're able to go into the technology and you can put up any type of wall, firewall you wish. They find ways of getting around that firewall. They get it in our schools, they get around the firewalls. So we have to be able to be that much smarter and to be able to put legislation in place that when you do break those laws, we are going to put you in jail. We are going to lock you up. So we're going to continue to make New York the safest, great, large city and state, the greatest
The model
state
that
in the nation.
everyone
Correct.
else follows, our
Correct.
model. But you know, you mentioned the credit card numbers, but it's also Social Security numbers
Sure.
that get taken through cyber terrorism, and the whole world is open once you get someone's Social Security number.
It's the name of the game,
So-
right?
And you can always stop a credit card and put a stop to a credit card. Your Social Security number, you really can't.
What's the first thing they ask you when you're on a credit card? What's the last four numbers
digits,
of your
yeah.
Social Security? What's the last four numbers of your Social Security number? And everybody uses those last four numbers for everything, for PIN numbers, and so
Oh, really? I don't.
yeah, a lot of
Oh,
people use
oh.
that.
I never
don't,
thought of that. I don't
but
have a
some
credit
people
card.
do.
Maybe that's why. I don't own a credit
You
card.
say-
You're a much smarter man.
And then you also have, and now, you know, I do want to tell you, you know, that I mentioned in the opening that you were retired New York City police officer, but so obviously public safety is something that's very near and dear to your heart. You know?
Yes, it is.
But you also had a hearing examining police safety and public protection.
Correct.
And I wanted to know what you found out about that
Well,
hearing and...
We've had a number of cases around the country, 4 or 5 cases, where there was supposedly police abuses, and they wanted to, here in the city of New York and the state of New York, put in monitors into our grand jury systems if in fact it was a police officer that had killed an individual that was unarmed. So we would have a two-tiered system. We'd have one for the police officers and one for the bad guys. I think we left England some years ago because of a two-tiered system, a system that didn't work. We came here for its freedoms, and we created the greatest freedoms for our people here in this greatest nation in the world. So we are not going to tamper with something that works. They want grand jury testimony. They want to be able to have grand jury reports on every grand jury case. That would slow the process down considerably. So what we found out is that there was not a need for the grand jury reports, not a need for these monitors. So we, hopefully, you'll see the budget very shortly, will not have the monitor in there, or the grand jury reports will not be in there as well.
Well, why does
But
that
we
have
also
to be part of
found
the
out.
budget?
Pardon me?
What's the fiscal implication that
Well,
you need to have it part of the budget?
It shouldn't be in the budget at all. It's a policy issue.
Right,
So why
right.
should policy issues be in a budget?
That's
And that's
my point.
exactly like you talked about the DREAM Act being part of the education tax credit. That's policy. That's why is that happening? That shouldn't be in there. So these are policies that came up that the governor put into the bill. So we, hopefully, you'll see very shortly that it's not going to be in our budget. But think about it. 4 or 5 cases around the entire country. Do you know that police officers, Rabbi, have millions of encounters each and every day across this nation? And we don't have anything. We're talking about a small, minute number where there are shooting incidences with an unarmed individual. And when you find out, after you've done your investigation, such as we see in Ferguson, Missouri, we find out that, in fact, there was no such thing as hands up, don't shoot, right? We find out that that was not the case, that he beat that police officer, and that the police officer's face was messed up, and so was his body, and that they, in his right to save his life, fired a shot, and that man was killed. We have the facts now.
And
The
what
facts are the truth. The Gardner
what
case in
about
Staten
Staten
Island,
Island, yeah.
same thing. They said it was a chokehold, and they choked him. That wasn't a chokehold, and it's unfortunate that it was said it was a chokehold. It wasn't. Chokehold is, as a former police officer, when you take a nightstick and you place it against the person's neck, and you stop the air from going to the brain, and the person blacks out. And in cases like that, you can see the person, if you, for any length of time, you can kill a person with a chokehold. This was not a chokehold, but had
What
the man,
was it? If you've seen the
it was
video,
it was
what
a
was it?
takedown. It was an actual.
Takedown.
It was
That's
5
what it's
people.
called? Okay.
It's 5 people. The guy was 400 pounds. He was tremendous, and you're not going to take this guy down easily. Especially what's missing in the video is, you're not taking me. His hands flailing back and forth. You're not taking me, pushing the guys off. You see, that got missed in the video, right? But when we find that came out in the grand jury that happened, it also came out in the grand jury that the guy refused to go to jail, refused to be taken, and all he had to do, okay, put his hands out, give up, he'd be alive today. But instead, he decided to fight the officers. And what was it? Was it a crime? Yeah, it was a crime. Lucy's, they're talking about cigarettes. Well, let me tell you about cigarettes. The Lucy's, you know why they sell the Lucy? Get money for cigarettes, right? Do you know what 6 out of 10 stores today in New York City are selling cigarettes that are illegal? They are not
Really? I
there
didn't
with
know
the
that.
stamp. You know why? Because of the taxes. It's $100 and some odd for a carton of cigarettes. So they get the cigarettes from Virginia, North Carolina. They bring them in here. They get cigarettes coming in from China, come into upstate New York by barge.
That's right.
You have truckloads of cigarettes coming in, right? Guess what they took the other day? They took a guy at a Kennedy airport, $800,000. Where was he going? To the Middle East
Oh, my God.
with that money for terrorism.
Oh my gosh.
What happened 6 weeks ago? They locked up 12 people. 5 of them, all of them were Muslim, all of them from the Middle East. Came, they lived in Brooklyn and in Staten Island. They took $1 million out of a refrigerator in Maryland. This was a task force that went after this group, and the group worked from Virginia to New York City, and in one refrigerator had $1 million. That money was going to terrorist activities in the Middle East and around the world, working with ISIS and other groups Now, we've shown, the FBI has proven it, that this money is leaving this country and being used for terrorist activity. So, Lucy's, listen, there's laws here. Abide by them. You abide by them, police want to stop you, they want to arrest you, you give up. You'd be alive today. That's the bottom line.
It goes the other way also. I feel bad for, the policeman that gets shot. Of course we don't want to see innocent people hurt, but like you say, you have to look at the whole case. But then these, you say in Yiddish, Mishagoyim, these nuts, they go shooting officers.
They killed those 2 police officers in New York City. They shot another 2 officers in California, I think. It was today or yesterday. You see the same thing. It's just constantly war today because the media has hyped it up. And we're talking about a handful of incidents, a small handful, where you turn around, you irritate a community.
Who says no one watches the news?
Sad.
I wanted to ask you about another topic that is very close to the Jewish community as well as near and dear to you, is World Down Syndrome Day. And can you explain, I thought everyone knew what Down syndrome was, but why does there need to be a World Day? And could you explain how you're impacted by this?
We all wore different socks that were created by the Down syndrome organization, and they came in, the parents and the kids actually made the socks, and those with Down syndrome, and we wore them last week. Down syndrome is something that you're born with. It's a deformity, and the child it grows into a young adult. Today they grow into, they can live 40, 50, 60 years of age. Years ago, it was not like that. Down syndrome is a scenario that needs a disability that requires funding from the state and from other organizations. They need private funding as well as public funding to be able to help discover the genes and the medicines that would help us alter Down syndrome, understand Down syndrome better, and to be able to limit Down syndrome and eliminate Down syndrome. So we need money, for research. We need money for the homes and for the families so that the residencies for those with Down syndrome and their parents age out, and they get older, and they themselves can't take care of their child that is a young adult or a middle-aged adult. So they need the residencies and the programs to be able to take care of those that have Down syndrome today. So when we have these different World Down Syndrome Day is to bring awareness to it, to bring people out, and to raise money and awareness, and to put that funding behind the research, and behind the needs of those families that need that help. So it's really a good. It was a great day.
I could go on for hours, and Rabbi too could go on for hours asking you questions. But in the last few minutes that we have, was there something that you wanted to bring up and mention that we didn't ask you about? We want to give you the open floor at the last few minutes we have.
Well, I think the big thing here is to make sure that we work with the communities and give the communities the focus that they need and the revenues and resources they need, such as the education tax credit, to give them choices so they can get the best education for their children. Mm-hmm. We believe in charter school movement as well, so that charter schools can have the ability to grow.
It's all about education.
And it's all about education. It's about giving the parents the choices. So there's something that we want to continue to flow in. And of course, we want to make sure that there are jobs and economic development and creating what we talked about earlier, the film tax credit and digital tax credit and incubators and keeping our people here and filling up the areas along the waterfront and the giving job creation is something that's important for families for the future. So we want to be able to do that. And of course, one big thing is public safety, right? And the last thing I really want to talk about is, if it's possible, is working with Simca Felder and others to create a law that's going to put the fire alarms in each one of the homes, those
smoke detectors,
protectors, so that they go off, and in the 1 and 2 family homes are not required by law. We want to make it a requirement by law. I was at that funeral of those 7 children, and it was the saddest event that I had ever witnessed. Those 7 kids and people from all over. It was just a sea of black walking down from the Hasidic community, but it was not just the Hasidic. Hasidic and the Sephardic community. There was some people from all over our city that came out and cried and cried with the father and cried with the family because of that great loss. And hopefully the awareness, we don't know, God is great and God has done so many good things. But sometimes you look at something like this and sometimes you're just like lost for words. But God is good all the time. There is reasons and a purpose for this, and we don't know what that is until we go home. At some point when we go home, we'll be told and we'll understand why this happened, why this took place. But hopefully, one of the things that'll come out of here is legislation that will protect families in the future so that we don't have these losses. I tell you, it was one of the saddest days, and I was a police officer, so I've seen some ugly things in my life, but this was one of the saddest things, and hopefully, God willing, we never see this or witness this again, and that the right legislation is passed, working with the Jewish leaders in Brooklyn, that being Dov Heiken, that being Simplifeld, working with all of our communities to make people safer. That's the big thing.
Thank you very much. Listen, Senator, thank you for coming back to the Jewish View. You're keeping on doing the good work for people of Brooklyn and New York State, and continue it on with great success and good health.
Rabbi Simon,
Much
thank you very,
success.
very much.
Okay.
Mark, thank you.